It's a beautiful morning. We're still in the shelter in place, the second wave of coronavirus, which a lot of people think is a conspiracy theory. I'm not taking my chances. I mean, I have a mom that has COPD that we're staying with. She fell 3 times in the past 3 years, and she can't really live on her own safely without protection. Besides, people also trying to come to her door, and one lady actually stole from her wallet one time back when I was working and I wasn't around, so I have to be careful to watch over her like my dad did when he was alive. I'm a veteran like him. I'm still trying to learn to fight like he did, but I'm pretty sure I'll never be able to fight like he did. And plus, his friend Vernon Parker was actually a boxer in New York, and my dad learned a few skills from him. And I'm just doing a little Thai bow here and there. That's about it. And trying to get back into Thai karate. But apparently, it doesn't come naturally to me. Neither does wrestling. My 22-year-old beat me at wrestling when I was, when she was 12. I don't remember how old I was when she was 12, but it was a while ago. So I don't really want to give away my age at this moment. So I'll leave that part out. But anyhow, sometimes you have to fight for what's right, and a lot of people are being peaceful protesters, which I think is wonderful, because it's very important to keep the peace. But when the peacekeepers become, I don't know, a little too aggressive, sometimes we have to have mediators that will regulate the situation to stop the rich from continuing to get rich and the poor from staying poor, because there needs to be some type of middle ground where everyone can reap the benefits of this promised land, the land of milk and honey that we're all living in. And a lot of people say the promised land is the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East. Some people say it's within yourself, which I've heard some people who are spiritual say that wherever you are can be the promised land if you're at one and at peace with your higher power. So that's a possibility too. The Bible, I have to read up on the Bible in that particular spot again to try to figure that part out, but it's up for interpretation and everyone has free will. So I've been kind of studying up a little bit lately on Malcolm X. I never really did it in the past because everyone always told me he was too much of a antagonist, or I guess someone who was out for revenge instead of peaceful change. And look what happened. That movie came out in 1992, and now people are actually acting out on what he tried to pull off. And he was from back in the 60s, so that was a long time ago. And this has been going on for years now with people trying to make change. But I think with like more of the Native Americans also, who are tribal people, and the Celts, who are tribal people, coming together these days, I believe it's going to finally happen where progress will take place, and more of minorities and tribal people who were originally tribal, who have converted to Christianity or other major religions, will be able to sort all this out. And some of the people who've had vision quests, I guess you could call it, or lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences, which I actually had a dream that I was doing aerial yoga. I'll never forget this. Back when I had a pedicure from a man who was half Vietnamese, half white. His dad was a white soldier in Vietnam trying to fight the communists. And he said he was he was left behind because whenever his dad left, his mom was forced to raise him, and then actually he got adopted by a family called Lee, L-I. But he spoke wonderful English. I mean, he had an accent, of course, but Vietnamese accent, but he was a bodybuilder, and he was very strong. He was tall, and he was trying to help me in the gym because we both went to the same gym. He was trying to give me a few pointers to stay fit and everything, and it really helped. I was so impressed by his efforts that I actually got a tattoo when I turned 40 of Mushu from Mulan, which is the red dragon from Mulan that Eddie Murphy did the voice for. And there's actually a live action Mulan coming out soon. I can't wait to see that. Excuse me, I think this coronavirus thing kind of slowed down. I'm not really trying to say communism is right, because I've always been taught against communism. You know, my parents were capitalists. My dad worked as a policeman, a fireman, lifeguard. He was in the army, and then he worked at the post office because it paid more than being a policeman, and it was less dangerous for our family, for, you know, because a lot of people were against police back then too, and they try to target policemen's kids a lot of times, which is dangerous. And that's one of the reasons my ex-husband left when our daughter was a baby, because my ex-husband was a policeman too. He didn't want us to be in danger. It's very sad that they have to give up their families sometimes. So some soldiers do the same thing because they don't want their families to be targets. But I'm not giving my family up. I mean, I'm a retired veteran, and I'm not trying to make trouble. I'm just trying to, as Cherokee, part Cherokee, one of the most peaceful tribes, the Rainbow Warriors, as we're called, we're going to lead the new world. Whenever the 5G people try to take over and make everything more mechanized, we're going to take over. The 5D people are going to take over and prove that we can still be at one with Earth and treat the Earth with respect. We can respect other tribes. We can respect other people's perspectives and people who are minorities, not just white people and not just Western ways. There's many other ways to deal with problems than just the Western ways, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing Thai karate, Taibo. I did a little Tai Chi also and some yoga, trying to tap into that Eastern method of easier ways of dealing with health issues than paying for those expensive machines in the hospitals, you know, or using radiation. Cannabis can solve a lot of problems, and they've kept that out of the mainstream for a long time. I believe it needs to be legalized internationally, because a lot of people don't want to face the fact that it can cure a lot of problems. It's a natural herb. It's a lot better for you than alcohol. I personally don't like the smell of marijuana. I prefer sage, but of course sage doesn't do the same thing that marijuana does. And I don't like the feeling of being high or wanting to eat so much, because I don't think that's good for you. You have enough obesity in this country with all the fast food restaurants as it is. So I don't really know what the answer is to that situation. I believe it has to be a specific, to each specific person's needs. So, I mean, alcohol has so much sugar in it, it's really bad for you. There's so many people that are obese, not only from sugar in foods and all the advertisements for sugar in the foods, but also in alcohol. So, I mean, I've switched to stevia now. And yes, I try to make heavy whipping cream to put on top of the keto cheesecake I make and everything from stevia, and it just doesn't taste the same as with sugar. So I switched to the almond Ready Whip, which only has 1 gram of sugar and 1 gram of carbs in it, and also the half and half to drink instead of milk, or the almond 30 calorie to avoid the carbs and sugar. And I've lost 40 pounds in about 5 months. So I'm kind of hitting a plateau, but I'm not going to smoke reefer, because that will all that does make you want to eat more and snack more, and I'm trying to avoid snack foods, you know. So it's nice to be able to live in this free country and have freedom of thought, freedom of protesting if you want to. Better to do it peacefully than not peacefully, but when people in power antagonize violence, then sometimes if people are stir crazy or frustrated, they're going to react in a violent way too, unless they have the right outlets, healthy outlets like music and art and nature, pet therapy. I helped a veteran one time, a Vietnam vet who was African American. He was singing cadences and things like that when I went to visit him in Colombia, and he wasn't verbal other than that, and the nurses were kind of like treating him crappy. And I went in and found some crayons in the day room, and I asked the social worker there why were there crayons and nothing to color. So she said, well, we did have some mandalas here, but they were all colored already. So I traced one of the mandalas, and she made copies of it, and that's the only one I could find. Otherwise I would have done more than one. And he started coloring with me and started talking, and he got better. This was a little before Christmas, and about 3 weeks before Christmas, I think. And once he started talking, the nurses started treating him with respect. And I heard that he was released before Christmas to be with his family again, because he wasn't angry anymore, and he wasn't acting up. They didn't have to shoot him up with Thorazine anymore, or make fun of him to make him, to belittle him, to make him cooperate, or also known as bullying. And some nurses do this, unfortunately, because nursing is a hard job. It gets stressful, and if they want patients to cooperate, sometimes they use medication to do it. This is one of the reasons I like the Eastern orthodology, the Eastern method of caring for people without using all the machinery and all the FDA approved drugs that sometimes are not good for people. They just a lot of times use Reiki and other healing methods and natural methods. Magnesium helps with anxiety. There's many herbs and minerals and crystals and things that are made from the earth. If we're just at one with the earth, it'll help, instead of using all these FDA symptomatic medications that really sometimes are not good for you. So growing our own vegetables and herbs here at home, it's helping a lot too. A lot of people are having their own gardens now, so that will help us be more at one with nature. Being around bodies of water helps, and just trying to be more peaceful. And I also pray for change with all the different tribes, minorities getting along with each other, and having peaceful demonstrations and peaceful games with each other to prove who's a worthy opponent, I guess. I don't know. Not trying to be violent like with hockey or football, but there's plenty of other